I bumped into Liam in the office lobby. He reached out to steady me, and I looked into the most striking pair of blue eyes I'd ever seen. "I'm Liam, the new intern," he said with a warm smile. Joe said, "Welcome to the firm," I replied. There was a jolt of something I couldn't quite name as we shook hands. "I should get to my office," I said, flustered. "It was nice to meet you, Liam." "You too," Joe's head. "I look forward to working with you," he replied. As I walked away, I could feel his eyes on me. What's wrong with me? I was a happily married woman. I settled into my office, but I couldn't shake the image of those blue eyes and the warmth of that smile. Liam had awoken something in me, a flutter of excitement and possibility that I hadn't felt in so long. I told myself it was nothing, just a fleeting moment of attraction. But as the day wore on, I found my thoughts drifting back to Liam again and again. In the weeks after we first met, Liam and I worked closely on a major case, often staying late in the office. Our initial professional conversations gradually turned personal as we shared about our lives, dreams, and struggles. Liam's attentive listening and piercing blue eyes made me feel genuinely heard and understood, encouraging me to open up about emotions I had long suppressed. As we worked together, I found myself increasingly drawn to him. The attraction I felt for Liam was far from normal, far from the collegial respect I tried to convince myself it was. One night, after a particularly grueling session, Liam and I found ourselves alone in the conference room. The air was thick with tension, with the unspoken attraction that had been building between us for weeks. "Josette," he said softly, his eyes searching mine, "I know this is wrong, but I can't help what I feel for you. You're all I think about." I knew I should end this before it escalated, but looking into Liam's eyes, seeing the raw emotion there, I felt my resolve crumbling. My heart was pounding, my blood singing in my veins, urging me to close the distance between us. And in that moment, I knew I was lost, knew that whatever happened next, there would be no going back. The connection between Liam and I had grown into something I could no longer ignore, no longer deny. I took a shaky breath, my voice barely a whisper. "Liam," but before I could finish, he was kissing me, and now what a kiss it was. Passionate, desperate, full of all the longing we'd both been holding back. I melted into him, my hands tangling in his hair, pulling him closer. The voice of reason and propriety was drowned out by the roar of my desire. That kiss was the crossing of a line, a step into forbidden territory from which there could be no return. But in that moment, lost in Liam's embrace, I couldn't care. The same week, on a Saturday morning, I was in line at my favorite coffee shop, lost in thought when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Joe said." I turned to find Liam, looking casually handsome in a fitted t-shirt and jeans. His eyes lit up when they met mine, and a smile spread across his face. "Liam, what a surprise," I said, trying to ignore the flutter in my stomach at seeing him. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I was just out for a run and grab a coffee," he explained. "Looks like great minds think alike." We chatted as we waited for our orders, the conversation flowing easily as it always did between us. It was strange to see him outside of the office in a context where we weren't poring over legal documents. It felt intimate, somehow, like I saw outside of him I hadn't seen before. As we said our goodbyes, Liam touched my arm, his fingers lingering just a moment too long. "It was really nice seeing you," Joe said. "Maybe we should grab coffee together sometime outside of work." I hesitated, knowing the dangerous path I was treading, but the hopeful look in Liam's eyes, the warmth of his touch on my skin, I found myself nodding, thinking of the possibility of kissing him again. I'd like that. Things came to a head one late night at the office. Liam and I were the last ones there, as had become our habit. We ran my office, going over a particularly tricky piece of the case. Liam was leaning over my shoulder, pointing out a detail in the document I was reading. I could feel the warmth of his breath on my neck, the faint scent of his colon enveloping me. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he must be able to hear it. I turned my head slightly, and suddenly his face was inches from mine. Time seemed to stand still as we looked at each other, the air heavy with tension. I saw Liam's eyes flicked down to my lips and saw him swallow hard, and then without a word he closed the distance between us and kissed me. It was like a dam breaking. All the pent-up attraction, all the stolen glances and lingering touches poured out into that kiss. Liam's hands were in my hair and waist, pulling me closer. I clutched at his shoulders, losing myself in the feel of his lips on mine. We stumbled back against my desk, papers scattering unheeded on the floor. Liam lifted me onto the edge, his hands sliding up as he stepped extremely close. I wrapped my arms around his neck, deepening the kiss, feeling like this moment was pure ecstasy. Rational thought had fled, replaced by pure sensation. The heat of Liam's skin against mine, the urgency of his touch, the desperate need building in me. I knew dimly that what we were doing was wrong, but I was too far gone to care, too lost in the passion consuming us both. We had an intense moment of passion there in my office, frantically, desperately. It was reckless, careless, but in that moment it felt inevitable. Like every moment since we'd met had been leading us here to this explosive release of tension. Afterward, as we hastily rearranged our clothes, reality began to set in. I had just betrayed my husband and my marriage vows in the most profound way possible. Shame and guilt wowed with a lingering pleasure, the undeniable rightness of being in Liam's arms. Liam must have seen the conflict on my face. He cupped my cheek, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Joe's that? I know this is complicated, but I also know that what just happened between us, it's real. It means something." I wanted to believe him, wanted to lose myself in the fantasy that this could be anything more than a moment of weakness, but the cold weight of my wedding ring against my skin was an undeniable reminder of the reality I couldn't escape. "Liam, we can't. I'm married." "What we just did," I trailed off, shaking my head. "It can't happen again." Pain flashed across Liam's face, but he nodded. "I understand." I don't want to cause you any trouble, but Joe's that. I need you to know, this isn't just physical for me. What I feel for you, it's deeper than that." His words were like a knife in my heart, a bittersweet echo of my own forbidden emotions. I knew I should walk away and put an end to this before it went any further, but looking into Liam's eyes, seeing the raw vulnerability there, I couldn't bring myself to do it. Instead, I pulled him into another kiss, pouring all my conflicted feelings into the embrace. It was a promise and an apology all at once, a pledge of our passion and an acknowledgement of its impossibility. That night marked a turning point. The line had been crossed and the boundary was breached, and as much as I tried to tell myself it was a one-time mistake, I knew in my heart that it was only the beginning. In the days and weeks following that first passionate encounter, Liam and I tumbled headlong into a full-fledged affair. We snatched moments together whenever we could, lingering in the office after hours, stealing away for long lunches, even booking hotel rooms for clandestine rendezvous. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. Every stolen kiss, every secret touch, sent a thrill through me like I hadn't felt in years. Liam awakened a part of me that had long been dormant, a passionate, desiring woman who craved only the fire he could provide. But even as I lost myself in the intoxication of our affair, guilt gnawed at the edges of my conscience. Every time I lied to John about where I'd been, every time I slipped away to be with Liam, I felt the twist of self-loathing in my gut. I was betraying my husband, the man I promised to love and be faithful to. I was risking everything we built together, our home, our life, our future, for moments of stolen passion. Liam sensed my turmoil, my inner conflict. He would hold me close after our love-making, stroking my hair as I lay with my head on his chest. "I hate seeing you torn up like this," he murmured one day. I wish things were different, that we could be together without all the secrecy and guilt." I sighed, tracing patterns on his skin with my fingertip. "I do too. But Liam, what we're doing, it's wrong. I made a commitment to John, and I'm betraying that every time I'm with you." Liam was quiet for a long moment. Then he said softly, "Do you love him?" The question caught me off guard. Of course, I love him. I wouldn't have married him if I didn't. "But are you in love with him?" Liam persisted. "Does he make you feel the way I do? Do you burn for his touch the way you do for mine?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. The truth was, as much as I cared for John, I couldn't remember the last time I had felt for him. The searing passion Liam ignited in me. Our marriage had become comfortable and routine, but the fire had dwindled to embers long ago. Liam must have read my silence as confirmation. He tilted my chin up to look at him, his blue eyes intense. "Joe's that? I know this is complicated. I know you're married, but what we have between us, it's real. It's a once-in-a-lifetime. Are you really ready to walk away from that?" I felt tears steam my eyes, my heart torn in two directions. "I don't know," I whispered. I need some time to think," but even as I said the words, I knew my decision had already been made. As much as it pained me, as much as it went against everything I believed about myself, I couldn't give Liam up. The pull between us was too strong, and the need he awakened in me was too powerful to resist. And so our affair continued, growing more intense and more reckless with each passing day. We took bigger and bigger risks, the fear of discovery a constant shadow over our stolen moments of bliss. I knew it couldn't last forever, knew that. Eventually something would have to give. The lies were piling up, becoming harder and harder to keep track of. And the guilt was eating me alive, a cancer in my soul that grew with every secret embrace. John started to notice changes in me, my distraction, my distance. He would ask me if everything was okay, his eyes searching mine for the truth I couldn't tell him. Each lie I told felt like a betrayal, another brick in the wall I was building between us. I was fracturing, splitting into two halves. The faithful wife, the woman I had always believed myself to be, and the passionate lover, addicted to the fire Liam had sparked in me. And then one day the inevitable happened. John found a text from Liam on my phone, a heated message alluding to our last encounter. The look of betrayal and devastation on his face when he confronted me. It seared into my memory forever. As I watched my husband's heartbreak before my eyes, I saw the pain, anger, and confusion roaring on his face. I knew I had reached a breaking point. I had a choice to make, a choice between the stable, faithful life I had built and the passionate, all-consuming fire Liam offered, a choice between my head and heart, my vows and my desires. In that moment, with my marriage crumbling around me and my heart shattering in my chest, I didn't know which path to choose. All I knew was that I had to find a way forward and try to salvage what I could from the wreckage I had created. But no matter what I chose, I knew one thing for sure. The affair had changed me fundamentally and irrevocably. It had awakened a part of me I could never fully put back to sleep and had introduced me to a version of myself I both longed for and feared. I met Liam in our usual spot, a quiet park bench hidden away from prying eyes. He smiled when he saw me, moving to pull me into an embrace, but I held up a hand, stopping him. The look on my face must have told him something was wrong. Joe said, "What is it? What's happened?" I took a deep, shaky breath. "Liam, we can't do this anymore. The affair, it has to end." He stared at me, shock and confusion warring on his face. "What? Why?" "Shows it, I thought we have something special. We do. God, Liam, you've awakened things in me I didn't even know were sleeping. But I'm married. I made a commitment to John and what we're doing. It's wrong. It's hurting him and it's hurting me." Liam shook his head, reaching for my hands. "Joe's that, maybe we can figure this out. We can find a way." I pulled my hands away, wrapping my arms around myself as if to hold in the pain threatening to shatter me. "There is no way, Liam. Not one that ends well for anyone involved. I care for you deeply, but I have to try to make things right with John. I owe him that much. So that's it then." Liam asked, a bitter edge to his voice. "You're just going to go back to your life and pretend like this never happened, like we never happened." A sob caught in my throat. "I don't have a choice. Please try to understand." His face softened, the anger fading into a deep aching sadness. "I do understand Joe's set. I wish things were different. I wish I could be what you needed, could give you the life you deserve." I stepped forward, cupping Liam's face in my hands. "I know, but this is for the best." He nodded, covering my hands with his own. I stepped back. "Goodbye, Liam," I whispered. He smiled sadly, a final bittersweet quirk of his lips. "Goodbye, Joe's set. I allow you to judge me and leave your opinion about my facts and comments. Thanks for staying there. We will see each other again soon."